October 14th, Saturday night,
Okay.
Road Rage at New Rock Prep Sports Academy, 8134 Geiger Street, Northwest, Covington, Georgia. Bell time, 7 p.m. Be there.
Hey, folks, this is Myron from the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Tonight, I am joined by the incredible Hulk, Will Huckaby. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on as a guest. I enjoy being on podcasts. I really love it. I love talking about wrestling, and obviously, I love talking about myself. So this is a great opportunity for me to do both.
Yeah, it's a great thing, man. You can talk about yourself, you can promote what you're doing, and you can let the fans get a chance to meet you and get to know you better. It's a really good opportunity. I love the podcast scene right now. And speaking of the podcast scene, you have your own podcast.
Yes,
Tell me all
yes,
about
I
that.
do. I guess we're just gonna go ahead and jump into it. I'm the host of the Wrestling Nerdcast on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. I have a great co-host, Mika Villas. You can find her on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and I think even Snapchat. Like, she does the Snapchat thing. I don't. Like, I'm old and I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get that one.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. My kids have Snapchat, and I'm just like, well, my oldest daughter has Snapchat. I'm just like, whatever. I'll stick with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, like the stuff that I know, like all this new stuff y'all got coming out. Like, I'll just stick with this. But record every Tuesday night is usually available late Tuesday, early Wednesday morning every week. Sometimes we have, the majority of the time we have like guests on the show and stuff. We do interviews. I try to talk to independent wrestlers. At being an independent wrestler myself, so I try to talk to independent wrestlers. And then every once in a while, you know, we talk about current events, not only in the world, but in wrestling. Everything from New Japan to Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment to WWE to Impact Wrestling or whatever they're calling themselves now, to ROH, you know, Lucha Libre, you name it, we talk about the show. And then, like I said, we have guests and we talk to them as well.
And where do we find this podcast at?
Like I said, it's on the Angry Marks Podcast. But you can also find it on iTunes. You can also find it on YouTube. We always upload our episodes on YouTube. If you follow me on social media, especially Twitter at WWA4, every time we get ready, actually every time we release a show and stuff, I go ahead and I post it on my social media so that all of our fans and listeners can listen to our latest episode, and you know, hopefully they share it with their friends and family and other wrestling fans.
Yes, that's the key. You know, if when they come on your show, if they'll retweet that, they can promote themselves, and people can hear them and get to know them and want to go see them when they come out to a wrestling show. You
exactly.
Know, it's like we're really friendly with O'Shea Edwards, and when I hear he's going to be somewhere, I go to the show because I like the guy. And podcasts give people that opportunity.
Well, you know, speaking of O'Shea, I like to call him Huckaby Jr. You know, well, and I'm going to tell you what, man, I'm going to give you an exclusive. I didn't even talk about this on my own podcast. I'm going to give you an exclusive right from the gate.
Okay.
The next Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment show will be at the Marietta Event Center in Marietta, Georgia, right outside Atlanta. That will be October 22nd. But October 21st, I'm coming down to Atlanta the day before Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment because for some strange idea, O'Shea Edwards thinks that he's stronger than I am. So we're going to have like this intense, crazy workout session. I don't know if any of your fans and listeners are like fitness freaks or whatever, or they follow like fitness guys. They follow fitness guys and stuff on YouTube and social media. But this would be the same as when you know, the Incredible Hulk, this guy Kevin Washington and stuff, who's this huge, massive guy. When him and C.T. Fletcher worked out together, it's like, hey, what would happen if the Incredible Hulk met Superman in the gym? Like, that's what this is going to be like October 21st. So we're going to have somebody recording it, and we're going to probably release like clips of it and stuff on social media. It's going to be crazy, man, because, you know, me being a little bit older than he is, I have to defend my crown because wherever I go at, no matter what wrestling locker room I'm in, I always take pride in being the strongest guy in that locker room.
I can see why, because I've seen you live and I've seen what you could do to some guys in a battle royal, and I would have to agree with you. I can't see where there'd be anybody stronger than you. It would be hard.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not the strongest person, but I'm probably not the strongest person in wrestling. But if I'm not the strongest person in the locker room, I'm definitely in the top 3. Like, there's not going to be too many other guys that's going to be in the locker room stronger than I am.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. You got something there. You got a challenge with O'Shea. That's got to be something that's going to generate some press and some heat. And is he going to be at the Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment Show?
Of course he's going to be there. I mean, he's like my shadow. I remember I've only known O'Shea for like a year, and this is the last time we'll talk about him because this is my podcast. Why are we putting this guy over? But I met him like a year ago at Wrestle America. And I've always, because I'm a huge wrestling fan, besides being an independent wrestler, I'm a student of professional wrestling. So even though I live in North Carolina, I try to make it my business to know who are the up and coming wrestlers, in not only the Southeast but on the East Coast. Period. North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, West Virginia, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I try to make sure I know who's who. So I'd already heard about O'Shea Edwards and the Dogs of War, but when I met him, I was like, hey man, what's going on? Like, I'm a huge fan. I've heard about you and your tag team partner. Excited to see you guys in action. And he's not so much doing the tag team stuff now. Now he's more of a singles wrestler. I'm really excited. He's at AWE. That's one of the things I love about Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment is that, they have a great mix of vets and indie darlings and, new upcoming talent and stuff that's really going to be, the movers and shakers in the next 10 to 15 years. And I feel like in 10 years, we'll definitely be talking about O'Shea.
Well, that's the thing. Chip Day calls himself Atlanta's best kept secret, but I really think it's AWE because they get consistently the best talent in independent wrestling, and they get the best matches, and it's always a good show. I love those guys. Yeah. I love getting out to it. I would go every time if I could.
Chip calls himself the South's best kept secret, and I find that very hard to believe that anybody, if you're a fan of wrestling and you don't know who Chip Day is, you really can't call yourself a fan of wrestling. As far as AWE goes, yes, they always feature great marquee matches. One of my favorite matches in recent memory was Martin Stone versus Zack Sabre Jr. Like, these guys went 20 plus minutes, and the first 15 minutes they were in the middle of the ring and never touched each other. I've always been a fan of Jimmy Ray, which is a huge reason why I really wanted to come to AWE, because I've always been a fan of Jimmy Ray since he was in ROH and Dragon Gate, and watching him wrestle with so many different guys with so many different styles, everybody from Martin Stone to Chip Day to Tommaso Ciampa and AR Fox, et cetera, et cetera. It's like watching him work with these guys and stuff. They're all different styles, and he's just able, and no matter what, he just blends his style so fluently, and his stuff is always.
And you never know where in Atlanta Jimmy Ray is going to show up.
Exactly. But but I think with AWE, it's more than just the featured matches. It's more than just the guys that they bring in and stuff to work these featured matches. It's more about the actual consistent talent that's there. I feel that AWE, person for person, has a better locker room than any other. And I'll go on record saying it. You can put AWE has a better locker room, person for person, core guys, men and women, better than any other locker room on the East Coast, period. And I'll put that against FIP, Evolve, NYWC up in New York, CZW, and it's mainly because myself included, everybody that wrestles for AWE has a huge chip on our shoulder. No pun intended. I like to call AWE the Isle of Misfit Toys. We are all guys and females who were overlooked. Case in point, Team IOU, which is now the Carnies, have been wrestling in Tennessee for years. And they had the whole boy and his dog gimmick, and were seen as more of a comedy thing, and nobody really wanted to give them a push. Nobody really felt like they could build a tag team division around them.
Yeah.
Bring them to AWE. They had this huge feud with myself and Joe Black as the Sound of Fury, which culminates in a double dog collar match, which was called by some of the Georgia fans and stuff one of the most brutal wrestling matches in recent Georgia history. Not because it was like super bloody and we're doing death matches. It was just very physically brutal. But fast forward, we have this double dog collar match, and next thing you know, Team IOU transforms into the Carnies, and these guys are everywhere. Look at Joe Black. Joe Black, who is now Joseph Agal. My former tag team partner, was kind of known in the Carolina area because he trained at CWF Mid-Atlantic, the same place as Cedric Alexander, and he trained with Cedric Alexander and Trevor Lee and Andrew Everett. He came in the game with all of those guys, and for one reason or another was kind of overlooked. Came to AWE, wrestled with a huge chip on his shoulder. Now he's been on ROH, he's been on NXT, he's wrestled for Booker T down in Texas. This guy's all over the place. He did the Young Lions Cup up north, like 2 years ago. He's having these great matches all over the place. So the talent that is the core of AWE. Those three guys I just mentioned: Owen Knight, Murder One, Sugar D, who's a Georgia guy but was overlooked and had to leave the state to make his name and then come back. Priscilla Kelly, Kiera Hogan, two females who I remember when Kiera Hogan was a ring announcer, and she told me, "Oh, I'm training to be a wrestler," and that was like a little over 2.5 years ago. And she was like, "Oh, well, I'm training to be a wrestler," and I was looking at her like, "Sweetheart, you're cute, you're attractive, just be a ring announcer." And now look at her, WSU champion, just got signed to Impact Wrestling. So it's like, Josh Wheeler and the powers that be at AWE are great at finding new undiscovered talent and and not only finding them but bringing out the best in them and making them realize, hey, you're so much better than what everybody's told you. You're better than what's been given to you. Go out there and show these Mickey Fickies. Go out here and show the rest of the world that you are better than what they could ever imagine.
Oh, I love the AWE show because, one, they're incredibly intense. They're also it's right in your face, up close and personal, in a very intimate setting where the wrestlers sometimes come out and fall right on top of you. And you've got the wrestlers that are working events and that come out and talk to the fans after the show and sell their gimmicks. And you've got people out there meeting people. And then after their matches, they circulate through the crowd and you can buy them a beer. It's a really, really unique dynamic in wrestling today.
I think it's all of those things. And I think the best thing about AWE is the story that's told. A lot of wrestling companies, they just say like, "Oh, we run 12 shows a year, month to month," and it's if we have, for lack of a better phrase, we have Bash at the Beach, 96. The next year is Bash at the Beach 97, and they don't correlate. One of the cool things about AWE is that they go by season 1, season 2. Right now is the start of season 4, and the things that are happening in season 4. Or the things that happened at the end of season 3, where Martin Stone finally won the Georgia Wrestling Crown Championship and stuff. You can go back to season 2 when he first came to AWE, and you've seen the story that was told. I think that AWE is great at telling a very subtle story that if you're a consistent regular AWE fan, you'll see the story being built, and if you're not, you can still follow along during the show, because every show tells its own. Every show is an actual chapter in the story that is AWE. As far as what you were saying, myself, I'm one of those wrestlers who are like, after my match, whether I'm banged up and sore. And this past, you was at the last show.
No, I did not make the last show. I was at the
You
show
were?
before
Oh
that.
man!
And I was
So you
also
should
at
have
the
been this
World
last
show.
Yeah,
They
you should
they
have
would
been this
not let
last
me off
show.
of work, man. I asked for a vacation day, and it was denied.
I took a super kick to the eye.
Ow!
Got a concussion. Yeah, Joe Black. It was me versus Joe Black versus Aaron Epic versus Joe Black or Joseph Agal.
Yeah.
Took a triple super kick. One of the super kicks hit me directly in my left eye, and I'm not. When I say in the eye, I mean the heel of his foot hit me in the eye. Got a concussion. Got a moderate grade concussion.
Yeah.
My eye immediately swelled up. I kind of lost the majority of my vision in my left eye for like a day and a half. I thought I was going blind. Actually, I was kind of worried.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So I got home. Like when I got home Monday, I was like, "Look, I had to go to the eye doctor. Like, look, here's what happened." Like, and they were just like, "Oh, it's just part of your concussion. Your eye's kind of swollen. It'll be fine." But even then, concussion, my face was all swollen. I could barely see. But I'm still out there after my match. Once I got everything settled and the adrenaline wore off, I'm still talking to the fans because as wrestlers, especially as AWE wrestlers, we appreciate our fans and we'll go out to the crowd. And I know myself personally, I try to make it my business, to know who all our regular fans are. And if I see somebody and this may be your first or second time, hey, is this your first time here? Well, yeah. Well, you know what? First of all, thanks for coming. Second of all, hey, are you enjoying yourselves?
Yeah.
And the majority of the time, it's, we're having a great time. Cool. Thank you. Look, our next show is in like 4 weeks. It's here or it's there, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, be sure to come. I see you're drinking. Hey, let me buy you a beer. Let me buy you your next. I'll buy your next drink. Why? Because I appreciate you. Taking time, not only taking the time out of your day, out of your schedule, where it's because a lot of the AWE shows are either Sundays or Monday nights. So you're taking time away from where you could be resting and getting ready for your work week, and instead you're here with us, watching and enjoying wrestling. So hey, here's my little small way of giving back to you and saying thank you. I appreciate it. Next time, bring your friends.
Yes, the AWE fans are a very tight knit, loyal, fundamental group. I mean, almost to the point it's like a clique. Because when I was at SCI and we were in the City Diner, the AWE fans were at their own table.
We call them the fanatics. The AWE fanatics.
Yes.
I don't want to say that they're very cliquish because saying that they're cliquish is just saying that they're very inclusive and
I don't mean it as an insult. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's the total opposite. The AWE fans are like, no. They're not saying, hey, stay away from us. They're like, no. Come be one of us. We want you here with us. Like, you should be at AWE every time there's a show because this is the best wrestling in the state, if not the world. And I personally love all wrestling fans. Mm-hmm. But the AWE fanatics have a special place in my heart because, like you said, they'll go to other promotions like SCI, like FIP, like
we see them Southern Fried. We see them up at. We just went to a charity show at the Anarchy Arena.
Janie Strong, Janie Strong, yes.
And there were AWE fans there, and they're there. You see the guys at the shows, and that Jenny Strong show was amazing. Those guys put on a really good thing.
Yeah, I know. We just reviewed that. You're about to say my co-host Mika, she's one half of the world's cutest commentary team.
Yes, I saw her there.
Her and Danny Danger actually did the commentary. But get back to the fans. Like, the reason why I love the AWE fans is because they'll go to all of these different shows. They've come to North Carolina to PWX and AML, and they'll come to support AWE wrestlers. And when they come to a show, they're very vocal about the fact that, hey, look, we're here at your show, yes, but we didn't come for your show. We came for our guy. We came for Chip Day, or we came for Adrian Armour, or we came for Joe Black or Will Huckaby. Like, that's our guy. Like, and we came here, and you're going to realize, and you're going to know before the show is over with, that that's our person. I heard a story that the AWE fans, when they had the Sean Nova tournament, which Priscilla Kelly's the Sean Nova champion, Priscilla Kelly and Kiera Hogan were in the tournament, and the AWE fans loaded up a minivan and drove down to Florida from Atlanta to see that tournament. and Frank Gastineau, the referee, one of the
Yes.
AWA referees who lives in Florida, he said I walked out. He's like, I walked out to the ring, like, and all of a sudden there's like 6 or 7 AWA fans. I'm like, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, oh, we came to support our girls. Like, we came to support the Raw division. We didn't come here for the whole tournament. But by the end of this tournament, you're going to realize, hey, those are our fans. Like, those are our wrestlers. We claim them as our own. And if you want us to come back, you'll bring them back.
I have tried to pin Frankie down for an interview, but that is so busy. I mean, he works if there's a ring and you hear a bell ringing, there's a good chance he's going to be there calling the action.
Good thing, man. He's a great referee. He is
I agree 100%.
Referee. I'm surprised, and of course, I'm not going to guess as to why he's not with WWE or NXT or whatever, but he is a great referee. And it's always a good thing when somebody's so busy. You're like, I really want to talk to this guy, but I can't because every time I try to talk to him, he's busy. He's doing something wrestling wise. Like, that's a great thing, because if he did have time, if he was that accessible, then that means, hey, look, that means he's not really getting a lot of work wrestling wise. So when guys are that busy, you should definitely congratulate them.
Oh God, yeah. It's a really unique business, and as from an outsider, we're looking in and we're watching the matches and trying to figure out what's going on, but we don't really have a clue a lot of the time. But the oddest thing I have discovered is if you'll take your time and show up at a lot of events and chat with these people, that they'll sit down and tell you what's going on. They'll talk to you. I showed up at a Southern Fried event, and there were some people we had talked to, wrestlers we talked to. And when they shook my son's hand, who is a huge wrestling fan, they made me so over with him because he thought I was really cool that I knew these wrestlers, and they took the time to talk to him because they had seen me at enough events. And it's just such a welcoming atmosphere. If you take the time and you show up and you talk to these people and you act decent, you don't want to mess up in their business. You don't want to disturb them before their matches. You treat them with respect, and they are so nice in return. You can't get that at a WWE show.
No, Let's kind of be honest for a second. You heard the rumors, and I'm not gonna say it's true or not, but you heard the story going around that Sasha Banks was pissed off because
yes,
fans were trying to talk. They were following her at the airport and stuff, and waiting for like 8 hours for her at the airport to get an autograph and stuff. I feel I kind of agree with Bully Ray on the subject when it's like, you should be worried when people are not waiting to get your autograph.
Yeah.
That's when you need to worry. As far as independent wrestlers go, and you're a wrestling fan, and I'm a wrestler, so we know that even though there may be, let's say there's 100,000 wrestlers in the United States, there's really only 30 to 40,000 actually good to great wrestlers. Yeah. And this is independent wrestlers. Over half of them are garbage.
That's probably a very accurate assessment.
So, wrestling by itself, even though people are like, oh, there's so many different wrestlers, it's a very small community. This is a very small subculture. And, you have wrestlers and then the wrestling fans, and we're kind of intertwined because without myself, there's no wrestling for you to enjoy. Without you, I have nowhere to perform. I have nobody to perform in front of. It's like being a magician, and without fans, you're just performing for other magicians who already know how the trick is done.
Yeah.
So you need that audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need that audience. And not only that, but you need that audience interaction. Myself, I love talking to fans. I love interacting with fans. When fans are respectful, when they're like, hey, there's nothing worse, in my opinion as a wrestler, there's nothing worse than dealing with that one fan who's like, yeah, this stuff's fake, da 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 da. Well, if if it's fake and you're having such a horrible time, why the hell are you here?
Yeah, why'd you buy the ticket?
Yeah, like you you remind me of that person in the mall during Christmas time telling all the little kids that, that's not really Santa Claus. That's somebody's drunk uncle in the Santa Claus suit. Like,
Yeah.
don't be that guy.
Yeah.
But I enjoy wrestling fans. And what you're saying is true. The more wrestlers in particular see you as a fan, and the more they know that you support maybe not just themselves, but you support indie wrestling, the more open they are to you. The more they'll kind of lower their guard and let you actually get to know them away from the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, unless it takes years to really build up their confidence with somebody.
Yeah.
Especially wrestlers, because we were talking off air and stuff before the show. We as wrestlers are artists, and so we're very, just like any other artist, whether it's a painter or a singer or an actor, we're very protective over what we do. We're very sensitive about the art that we create,
Well, it's a
using our
performance
bodies and an 18 by 18 foot canvas. Exactly.
Yeah. It's a performance art.
So when people appreciate you as an artist, then you're more receptive to speaking and having a conversation with them.
Mm-hmm. Now, you call your show the Wrestling Nerdcast. Why is it a nerdcast? That's the thing I wanted to understand.
I think it's because the previous host of this show, a really good friend of mine, Zane Paisley, who actually, along with the Prophet Rick Craig, who's a manager up in the Midwest, they actually got me into being a podcast host. But it was just me and Zane Paisley, and we were throwing around different ideas for different names and stuff, and we both were like, we're both kind of wrestling nerds. We're both wrestling nerds. And on top of that, I was a nerd in high school too. Like, I wasn't always, 300 pounds. Like, when I graduated high school, I was 5'2", 125, really. But we're both wrestling nerds, and we talk about nerdy stuff. And the things that we may enjoy, the average wrestling fan is like, huh? Or, we'll talk about, when we're off air and stuff, it's just me and him having conversations. We are, drawing the line from, Sigmund Freud and his influence on professional wrestling in the 80s. Sigmund Freud's influence on wrestling in like the late 80s or the late 90s, during the Attitude Era and stuff. So, I mean, that's
pretty
just where the name came along. But we would just draw lines between pop culture and wrestling and history, and hey, this kind of reminds me of this if you look at it. Or we would book these huge, crazy, elaborate storylines and stuff. And of course, we pat each other on the back, et cetera, et cetera. But that's where the name came along, because it's just two guys who are not only wrestling fans. He's a wrestling fan, I'm a wrestler, but we're both wrestling nerds. And it was like, hey, this is the Wrestling Nerdcast. And when he had to step away from the podcast because of family and the real, I guess I hate to say the term real world, but because of the real world, I just kept the name because I'm a wrestling nerd. I'm a nerd. I don't play video games, which is, I guess I'm the anti-wrestler because I don't play video games. I don't watch Japanese anime. I'm not really into a lot of the things. I've never been to any kind of comic convention. Never really had a reason to. I'm outside of wrestling, I am a huge fan of American literature, classic American literature.
Wow. I get a lot of anime, and I get a lot of comic book guys, and I get a lot of people who want to tell me about reading those backwards Japanese comic books.
Manga. I know they're called manga because my kids' friends read it, but
my kids read them, and I got no clue. But you're the first person that said anything about classic American literature.
Yes, which is another reason why I love the AWE fans, because we have a couple of fans. Most importantly, Lisa Spain.
Yes, I'm a friend with her on Facebook.
And Josh Broadway. They actually realize, hey, we heard that you're a huge fan of classic American literature. Yes, I am. And so they, like, every once in a while, they'll bring me, like, classic American literature books. Like, have you read this one? No, not really. I haven't. Or it's
Oh,
like, oh, I
wow.
read it, but it's been years since I've read it, and I couldn't find a
Uh-huh.
copy of this book. Like, oh, great, thanks. Da 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 da. So, while other wrestling fans again like those little Funko Pop thingies,
Yeah.
uh, which I guess are toys that you just can't play with, you just collect them. I don't
Yeah,
understand.
I can't leave a toy in a box. I'm sorry, that's me. Even
Exactly.
if it's a
Like,
collectible, I got to take it out and play with it.
so
That's
while
that's
other
just
guys
me.
would get like those Funko Pops and Japanese anime and Dragon Ball stuff, it's like, oh
Uh,
no no no, like bring me a classic American literature book, like, and I'm fine with that. Like, be
well, who's
my
your favorite
guest.
author?
Uh, hmm. I can tell you my favorite class, and for some reason I was about to say it, and you said, like, my favorite book is The Sound and the Fury.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I can't remember his name now. And I was just about to say the name of Falk. William
Uh-huh.
Faulkner is my favorite classic American
Wow.
author. My
Wow.
favorite book is The Sound and the Fury,
Mm-hmm.
which is where I got the tag team name The Sound and the Fury from, because
Yeah.
it's my favorite. It's my actual favorite book.
Huh. I was a huge when I was in college. I tried to stay in the liberal arts area as long as possible, and take as much English as I could because I loved reading, I loved writing, and just the when you have to read a book and analyze it and go through all the different nuances and what this means and what that means and why was the author trying to do that, that's not something you get maybe if you're just casually reading. It makes you understand what they're doing more and what they're trying to achieve. Okay, so it's the in-depth understanding of what a writer is going for that to me is the interesting part.
Like,
Uh
for me, I love reading. I love involving myself in books.
uh
But I get a lot of ideas for, as far as wrestling goes. A lot of my ideas are inspired by books and by characters. A lot of things that I do in the ring is inspired by characters, by books that I've read.
uh
Um, for instance, the entire Incredible Huck thing is like, yeah, I know. I have like the comic book character symbol on my trunks, on my wrestling
uh
gear, because it's easily recognizable.
yeah.
But when I'm in the ring, it's more of a like I take inspiration from Lord of the Rings and The Great Gatsby and
uh
things like that, as far as character development and how I talk to people. When I'm cutting promos and stuff, or when I'm talking, it just all depends. If I want to
hmm
be very serious, I take inspiration from The Great Gatsby. If I'm really if I'm being very passionate, then I kind of speak. Uh, there's a huge Lord of the Flies influence.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
as far as the way I carry myself, it's from different books that I've read, different ideas, and of course, me myself as a wrestler, I get influenced. I don't watch wrestling to what's the word? I don't watch wrestling to like, oh, I'm gonna do these moves, or I'm gonna pattern myself after this person right here. I'm gonna pattern
Yeah.
myself after my favorite wrestler. That's not. I watch wrestling um, for the small things, for like body position. Well, how's this guy? How is he when he's getting a pin? What is his left arm doing? What is his right leg doing? That's why I watch wrestling a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times. As far as character development, as far as promo development, I watch a lot of documentaries. I watch a lot of documentaries about serial killers. I watch those National Geographic documentaries about people locked up in prison and about the world's
Yeah.
toughest prisons. I watch the Animal Planet. One of my favorite documentaries to get inspiration from is a documentary about lions and hyenas.
Uh-huh.
This might blow your mind,
Okay.
because I was watching a documentary about lions and hyenas, and the person who was what's the word,
Narrating.
talking, the
Yeah.
narrator,
Uh-huh.
let it, was talking about lions and hyenas and how they interact, and he let the fact slip that a group of or a family of hyenas, if all things being equal, if you have the same number of hyenas as you have lions, a group of hyenas could kill a pride of lions with no problem. Because hyenas are so much more vicious.
Yeah.
And really, hyenas are a matriarch society. The female hyenas actually run the family instead of the men, which kind of gave me an idea as far as the wrestling storyline goes, that I'm just kind of keeping in the back of my mind until the time is right to use it. But I'm always like, everybody, like you see on Facebook and social media, it's like, oh, be a lion, be a lion, be a lion. I don't want to be a lion. The male lion is lazy, and all he does is eat and procreate, and that's about it. And he's lazy, and he's like a glorified babysitter.
Yeah.
And the female lion does all the work. It's like, no. If I'm going to be an animal, I'm going to be like the male hyena, because he gets out there and actually does the work. Like, he's the workhorse of the group. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy is vicious, and he's evil, and he's conniving, and he's sneaky, and he's super intelligent. So while everybody else wants to be a lion, I'm like, no. I'll just be a hyena. I'm good with that.
That's cool. That's a really good viewpoint on these kind of things. I always talk to people and say, if you can look at wrestling and recognize the storylines that have been used in plays and movies and books, Shakespeare would have been the best booker. Because the concepts are the same. It's greed, avarice, anger, revenge, violence, love, jealousy. And that's basically how you book a good wrestling show.
Yes. Well, the thing I love about Shakespeare and the majority of his stories is that even his, I guess, what we call in wrestling, his baby faces, were not white meat baby faces. They still had a little dirt to them. They had their flaws. They had their character flaws, which endeared us to them even more. People don't even realize Romeo and Juliet were like 14 and 15.
Yeah.
Romeo was basically, for all intents and purposes, a spoiled little hoodlum who belonged to a rich family. If Romeo and Juliet was going on right now, it would be Justin Bieber and Lindsay Lohan.
Yes. Yes.
But just like Justin Bieber and Lindsay Lohan, like, people love Romeo and Juliet because people love the concept of young love. And
it's a representative storyline. It's something that's eternal.
It's a great storyline.
Yeah. I think the good bookers, whether they know they're doing that or not, are actually, that's what they're doing for the most part. They're going with things that draw emotion out of people.
I
raw passion.
I think that the great bookers are able to not only draw to invoke passion, or to create storylines that will invoke passion or some kind of reaction from fans, but they're able to inspire the talent to be bigger or to do more than what they're usually doing. Like, kind of like, Martin Scorsese or Quentin Tarantino is like, look, hey, whatever, actor number one, like, I know you can do this, but I need more. I need more from you. Give us more. Yeah. Okay, that was good, but I need this. I need you to, this needs to be just as real to you as breathing. Like, give us everything. And great bookers are able to draw that out of their talent, in my opinion. But at the same time, like a Smart Scorsese, like a Tarantino, they give you the freedom to take this storyline or this character or this idea they have for you and make it your own. I think that the problem with WWE,
I agree,
think that most people's problems with WWE is not the talent. I don't think it's the talent, and I don't think it's the storylines. I think it's the fact that the wrestling fan nowadays knows, hey, look, this is scripted. There's somebody who writes these stories and develops these characters, but you're not letting the talent be the character. we know that Roddy Piper, for even though he was crazy as hell, he was
Yeah.
not Roddy Piper all the time.
Yeah.
But he was able, like, hey, look, we want you to play this character. This is who you are. You're going to be Roddy Piper from now on.
Yeah.
Tell us. Like, I give you the name, and I've given you a little bit, a basic outline. Like, you bring Roddy Piper to life. You've got to give the talent that freedom to take this character and this storyline and breathe life into it and make it their own. Because when it's real to the talent, now it's real to the fans.
I agree. Because I think people don't really get the bond with the current product because they feel like the wrestlers are in such tight confines that they can't go off on their own. They can't give a product. They can't give an emotional performance that would get people involved.
I don't think that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But you don't see people like Ric Flair frothing and foaming at the mouth cutting a promo.
I think that it's not that. I don't think that is not that the talent can't do it. I think that the talent is scared to do it.
Yeah.
I think that we as wrestlers have been so conditioned to think that WWE, or as they call it in the business, New York is the end all be all. Everybody wants to go to New York. So when we have the talent, we as wrestlers finally make it to WWE, you're like, okay, this is as good as it's going to get, and I don't want to mess up. Like, I don't. If I get fired, if I get released, I'll be seen as a failure. Or they're afraid to ask, even if they don't like what they're doing, they're afraid to ask for their release because I don't want to be seen as a failure. But and tell me if I'm wrong, and if you don't agree with me, then by all means say, hey, Will, you're kind of an idiot. All right, Myron. But I think that in today's age is the best time. There's never been a better time to be a professional wrestler than right now. There's nowhere in history.
I don't know it from a professional wrestler, but I will tell you, my personal opinion is there's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan than right now.
Here's why I say there's never been. This is the greatest time in history to be a professional wrestler, because never in the history of wrestling have we seen so many wrestlers look at Vince McMahon or Triple H and say, no, thank you. Never.
Cody
like,
Rhodes.
You have,
Cody Rhodes is more hero than I think most people get, because he was able to say, I'm not happy with what you're doing with me. I'm going to go out on my own and make it. And he has.
Not even Cody, not just Cody Rhodes. Look at Juice Robinson in New Japan Pro Wrestling. When he was at NXT, they gave him that horrible C.J. Parker, I'm an environmentalist wrestler, which is probably the dumbest thing you can do. But he was like, I'm an environmentalist wrestler, and I'm petitioning for the environment. And he didn't like what they were doing with him, and he was like, you know what, I'm just going to leave. And he left, and he went to New Japan, and now look at him. He's on his way to becoming one of the bigger names in New Japan. But when I say this is a great time to be a wrestler, I mean, we've never seen so many guys make so much great money outside of WWE to where they're like, you know what, Vince, I'm good. I don't need your money. I'm making, upwards of 6 figures a year, and I'm wrestling a third of the dates that you're wrestling, and I have creative control over everything that I do. You look at the Young Bucks, you look at, like you said, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, Ricochet, Sami Callihan, guys coming up in the business, and there's a lot of younger guys, thanks to vets like Brutal Bob Evans, who's taken his knowledge and is mentoring a lot of younger guys and stuff. You have guys like myself and Bo Crockett and the Carnies, and Chip Day, and even your buddy O'Shea Edwards, and people are making, we're not making hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we're able to pay our bills because of the money that we make, not only of our booking fees, but also for the merch that we sell from being a professional wrestler. And in my opinion, whether you're making $100 million a year off of your merchandise to pay your bills, or you're making $100 a weekend that can go towards your light bill or your water bill, if you're paying your bills because of the money you made from wrestling, does that not make you a success?
I would have to agree 100%. You're doing something you love, and I've spent the majority of my life at a job I do not like doing. I have not liked it after the first 6 months of doing it. And I've been able to make a living, but I've never considered myself a success because I'm not doing something I enjoy and something that makes me fulfilled. And I can see where if this job is fulfilling for you and you're able to pay your bills, it doesn't matter what you're making. You're successful.
Exactly. That's always, when they had that when Rick Rogers had his tweet and he was talking about, guys, the basic indie darling match was, lock up, headlock, dive, hip toss, dive, 450, dive. And then Randy Orton got involved and was talking about how much money he was making. And then, go back to your bingo halls and your high school gyms and stuff and your VFWs while I make, I'm on a show that made 5 times, I made, $150,000 more than the flagship show. It's like, hey, look, yeah, you're a success. You're paying your bills because of wrestling. But can you say that, indie wrestler number 1 who's wrestling in this bingo hall, can you say he's not a success? Like, he doesn't have a brand new Mercedes, excuse me, but he bought a very nice used car off of the money that he made from indie wrestling. His wife is able to go to Walmart or to the local grocery store and not have to buy the store brand canned vegetables. She can buy, the Del Monte vegetables because of the money that I've made, that wrestler A has made off of wrestling. Can you not say that he's not a success just like you, just on, and we both know, Myron, that success is subjective.
Yes.
Like you said, do you have to be making $1 million a year to be considered a success? If you're making $10,000 a year, but you love what you do, and your bills are paid, and your family's healthy, and you're healthy, and everybody's happy, does that not count as being a success?
I think it's actually more success than if you're doing something you do not like and feel that you have to do it to get the money. It's not a successful thing, in my opinion. You might be able to be a financial success, but it is not fulfilling. It's hollow.
Exactly. I mean, well, my theory on financial success, because I have friends who make really good money, and like you said, they're working jobs that they hate. That's bad for their health. I have a buddy of mine. He works for the government. He he's around my age. He's in his mid-30s. He makes upwards of $30 an hour. No kids, not married, so he's single, making upwards of $30 an hour and stuff. But he hates his job. His health, his blood pressure's through the roof. His cholesterol levels are high. His hair is falling out. Like, he's always stressed out. He has to take medication every morning for anxiety and stuff. And he's like, Will, I hate my job, but why don't you quit it? Well, because I make this much money. Well, yeah, but you're miserable. Like, does that make you have this really nice house. You have this, you're single. You have a 4-bedroom house, but you only see it first thing in the morning and right at night when you get off work.
Yep.
You have this really nice brand new BMW that you only drive to work. So
I understand totally. I understand.
It's like, yeah, you're financially successful, but you're miserable.
Yeah.
So, in all reality, you're not a success.
Mm-hmm. And that is the guiltiest pleasure for me with podcasting and this business is I have found something that makes me incredibly happy and something that's fulfilling to me. And honestly, I put way too much effort into it than I should for what I'm drawing out of it financially, but it is so fulfilling. Yeah, I get so much out of it.
That's a bad way of looking at it. I do way too much work for what I'm making out of it. Like, no, not really. I mean,
well, I mean, my girlfriend's like, can you justify this?
Can you really quantify, put a price on peace of mind, on happiness?
No, you're 100% right. You are 100% right with that.
And that's the same thing with wrestling. Before I got into wrestling, I was, working a regular job. I was out of the military. I've been out of the military for a couple of years. Was just, I didn't have a career. I was just working a job, basically, making, working a 9 to 5, just, working. and in my opinion, and this is not against anybody who does this, but I was just like the average American, just treading water, going from paycheck to paycheck, able to put a couple of bucks up, if I worked overtime or whatever, but
Yeah.
really wasn't doing anything. And then, and I'll admit it, I was a backyard wrestler for a long time. I met these guys who were backyard wrestlers because I didn't know any better. This was like almost 12 years ago. This was before, Facebook, where everything's like out in the open and stuff, and you can find a training school real easy. This was like in the days of MySpace, when MySpace first started.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, so and I was a backyarder, and I actually found an independent show and went to the show and was like, hey, I want to do this. And wrestling gave me a sense of purpose and gave me something to look forward to. It's something to strive for. After being out of the military and stuff and not really having a mission anymore, like wrestling gave me a mission and gave me a purpose.
Mm-hmm. That's phenomenal in my opinion. That is phenomenal. So you went from being a backyard wrestler, you go to an independent show. Where do you go from there?
I went to the independent show, and after the show, I was like, I met one of the wrestlers, and I'll never forget. His name is Marty. He was a Virginia wrestler named Marty Reed. Him and his manager, who's a really good friend of mine, Marshall, this dude named Marshall Bentley. I walked up to them and I was like, hey, look, I kind of do what y'all do, but not really. Like, I guess you could say, like, I do, like, this stuff in my homeboy's house. He has a ring in his backyard. And they're like, oh, you're a backyarder. And I was like, I guess so, yeah. I was like, but I want to do what you guys do. Like, I really want to do what you guys do. How do I do it? And they was like, oh, well, you have to get trained. All right, cool. Where do I go get trained at? Where's the school at? We have to find somebody who trains people. Well, I think that guy was there trains people. And the guy that first introduced me to the business was a total asshole. He was a crook and he was a carny in every sense of the word. I paid this dude like $3,000, which now I know better. Now I know for like $3,000 I could have went and got trained by the Dudleys or the Wild Samoans or some shit. I could have went to the Monster Factory for $3,000. But I didn't know any better. So the guy charged me $3,000. I paid him $3,000 up front. I was like, here's $3,000. I pulled like $3,000 out of my bank account. I was like, here you go. Here's $3,000. Like, train me to be a wrestler. He made me sign a contract for a year, and then he skipped out after like 8 months and left me stranded. And I had to find somebody else. And luckily there was a tag team, James Soretti and his tag team partner. They were known as Anarchy Now up here in North Carolina. And at the time they were very well known in North Carolina and stuff. They didn't charge me anything, which was really cool. They didn't charge me anything. They were like, we know your situation. We know the guy who was training you, and he's an asshole. We will just come here with us and just train with us, and, we'll help you out. So I trained with them for like another 6 months, and they were like, hey, look, we think that you're ready to actually start working shows and stuff. But by that time, they were like kind of like in the twilight of their career where they were slowing down and they weren't taking a lot of bookings. So they gave me an idea of how to get booked, but not really. It's not like now where young wrestlers nowadays can contact me or somebody else on Facebook and say, hey, look, how do I get booked? What do I need to do? For me, it was a lot of on-the-job training. And I figured, even when I was green in this business, I was like, well, asking to get booked is kind of like, getting hired for a job. So maybe I need a resume. So I had this, this little basic little resume saying, where I was from and my height and weight. And I think I had like one match that was on actual tape. And I said like this one match to like everybody. It was like, and I wasn't really getting paid. Wasn't getting paid at all, actually. I was like, look, I'll just come just for the experience, just to learn. And before the shows, I was very lucky to have like some amazing mentors when it comes to wrestling. I'm pretty sure you've heard of a lot of them. Damian Wayne, Lance Erickson from West Virginia, Mark James, who's known in Carolina. These guys like them, Phil Brown up in Virginia, who helped train Damian Wayne. Nowadays, PQ, Preston Quinn, who's an ROH star and stuff, somebody that I can contact whenever I need advice and stuff. But it was guys like that was like, I would see them at a show and would like beg them to work out with me before a match. Like, hey, before the show, can we roll around the ring? Can you show me some stuff? And these guys were really cool and kind of took me under their wing. It was like, yeah, well, I'll show you I'll show you a couple of things. So for me, it was, I didn't really go to an accredited wrestling school. For me, it was a lot of on-the-job training and learning as I went because, I remember the first time I went to go turn heel, I didn't know what it was like to be a heel. I was like, okay, I gotta be a bad guy. Okay, let me do some training. Let me do some studying on like bad guys, and not WWE bad guys because I'm not in WWE. So let me watch some independent wrestlers. And my dumb ass watched like every CM Punk match from IWA Mid South. and I'm guessing that you're laughing because you realize that was the wrong way to go.
Well, it's a different way to go. I didn't see his Mid-South stuff, but he had a very unique and different heel persona. It wasn't your typical heel.
In IWA Mid-South, he was super controversial, was not family friendly whatsoever, was cursing, was the epitome of not family friendly. And that's what I thought you had to do to be a heel, was just be very controversial.
Oh,
and so I was getting what they were calling bad heat. Which, there's good heat where the fans are paying their money to see you get your comeuppance and see the babyface win and beat you up. And then there's bad heat where fans are like, I'm not coming to the show if this guy's booked because I don't want my kids hearing this guy. I don't want my kids being subjected to this guy. And it was bad heat. And I'll say until recently, I think because of the reputation that I've built and worked very hard to build and mold and stuff in different states, that wrestling promoters now in North Carolina are kind of like, hey, maybe we should give Huckaby another chance. Because at one point I was wrestling maybe one show a month in North Carolina. And I would have anywhere from 8 to 12 shows in a month, and only one of them would be in my home state. It was so bad to where like my home promotion wouldn't book me anymore.
Oh wow! Yeah, that was a big step there, man. If you couldn't get them to book you, but you finally got back to where they will now, right?
Yes, I've built up relationships, and like I said, I think it's a lot to do with the quality of shows that I work now. The fact that I'm so open to helping out younger talent, and for any wrestler who's listening to this show, any wrestler who has anywhere upwards of 10 years of experience in this business, don't discredit listening to a lot of these younger guys, to a lot of these greenhorns. As much as I've taught them or tried to show them the little bit of stuff that I've learned in almost 12 years, and I do my best to help somebody out. And if I can't help you out, then I'll find somebody who will. But as much as I try to teach them, I've learned just as much from these younger guys, and they've helped me out just as much. Because, like I said, I had a very bad reputation at one point for being a heat magnet. And it was because of working with a lot of the younger guys. They're like, oh, well, no, Huckaby's really cool. He's kind of, opinionated, but he's not going to lie to you, and he'll help you out. Like, he's really cool. You just got to get to know him. But like once you get to know him, you'll realize if for all these people who saying that he's an asshole, he's not an asshole because he just likes being mean to people. He's an asshole because he's very passionate about wrestling.
Okay.
And that's where it's at now. Like I said, as far and not just that, but merchandise ideas, social media. I've met a lot of these younger guys. There's one younger guy, and if you haven't heard of him, you should definitely check him out. His name is the Juggernaut, Dewan O'Neill, up in Virginia. He wrestles for Nova. He wrestles for Nova up in Virginia, and he wrestles for VCW and Fusion, and he wrestles some in North Carolina stuff. This guy, I was checking his social media out, and he's sponsored by all of these supplement companies and clothing companies and fitness companies. And I was like, man, like, how'd you get all these sponsorships? And he was like, oh, well, look, here's how you do it. When you're on Instagram, just hashtags. Like, hashtags is like, just hashtag this company. You know, whatever your pre-workout is, just say, hey, just tag them in your Instagram. Hashtag their slogan on every whatever you're wearing to the gym. Hashtag and tag these companies. The more likes you get, they'll start taking notice that you're hashtagging and you're tagging their companies and you're using their merchandise. And next thing you know, after so many likes and views and stuff, they'll approach you. Oh, okay, well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, definitely. We get that talking to guys, and it's like, okay, how do you use social media? What is it doing for you? Are you gaining bookings based on the persona you put out on social media? Are you able to take, let's just say, the thing White Mike did with the whipped cream? Are you able to take that and turn that into bookings?
I love that spot. I loved it. Like, there was a lot of people who was very very berating, and I'll call it the old guard. With all due respect, I'll call it the old guard. Definitely looked at that, was like, oh, and of course, you hear that's what's killing the business, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought it was great. I thought it was super creative, and it was outside the box, and it made him stand out.
Yeah. And I looked when I was at Roar, I was talking to White Mike, and I said, Mike, what you did is not something I'm going to watch, and it's not for me. But how are your bookings? He said, they're through the roof right now. I said, that means it's a success.
You look at it like this. After he did that whipped cream spot, him and Timmy Lou Retton were selling whipped cream shots at the show for $5.
Yep.
And all they were doing was just spraying whipped cream in people's mouths, and people were paying $5 for that.
Yes.
Like you said, his bookings went through the roof. But that's something else that you learn from dealing with a lot of these younger guys, is that it's okay to take chances. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't always have to take it. Like, if nothing else, White Mike, who's been wrestling for 10 years, he's been wrestling just as long as I have, should be a prime example of don't always take yourself seriously. It's okay to make fun of yourself. It's okay to be a parody of yourself.
Yes.
And
I'm a huge Jim Cornette fan, and I like the guy. I listen to everything he puts out there, but he's not booking right now. He booked, and he was a successful wrestling manager and a wrestling promoter a long time ago. And times have changed. Times have changed dramatically. And people relate to people on the internet, and people see different things, and people look at stuff differently, and wrestling has changed. And exactly. These new guys that are out there adapting to what the product people want are succeeding.
Exactly. Well, and when it comes to that, it's, we as wrestlers can still dictate what fans, what they see and what they enjoy. We can still dictate that, but you still have to be able to listen, or it's not so much listen, but you have to look at current events and see, like you said, where the world is going at, what's going on, and you have to be able to ride that wave and say, you know what? You have to be able to forecast it and say, this is where society is going, and if society is going this way, wrestling's going that way, and I need to go ahead and get into this wave before. It's like surfing. You want to get to the great waves before every other surfer gets on that same wave. You know what I'm saying? You want to go ahead and stake your claim to that wave before everybody else sees it and recognizes how good of a wave it is, and they want to hop on the bandwagon as well. And I think that guys like White Mike, like the Gymnasty Boys, like Sugar D, like Chip Day, these guys are great at forecasting the wave of professional wrestling and jumping on it. I think that AWE and companies like AWE and PWX and Ignite down there in Florida, I think that Miss Kim Artlip I think that she's done a great job down there at Ignite of building her own brand and being her own boss and saying, this is what we're going to do as far as wrestling goes. And it's wrestling, but it's our vision of wrestling. People who are able to go ahead.
Wrestling has always been on the cutting edge of society and different things that are going on in society. It always represents very adequately and it adapts very quickly to society's changes. It's an indicator. And if you understand what's going on, you can get yourself in position, like you said, on that wave where you can ride it and achieve more with it.
I think that wrestling it's just like every other form of entertainment. I think wrestling is no different than music, than art, than movies,
Mhm.
than fashion. Wrestling is the same thing. It's subjective, and not everybody's going to like the same thing. While I myself may be a hip hop fan,
Mhm.
I don't listen to the same type of hip hop that my 20-year-old or my 13-year-old or my younger kids listen to.
Yeah.
I don't listen to the and I don't know if you see them or not, but they call them the mumble rappers. I don't listen to the 21 Savages and all of these guys, and Young Yachty, and I'm pretty
Uh-uh.
sure you have no idea who the hell I'm talking about.
I
Uh,
know I have a vague, like I said, I have teenagers, so I have a
yeah, but
vague
you're
grasp of
teenagers.
what's going on, and they'll tell me
Yes,
things.
yes, you're
Um,
teenagers. No,
yes,
I don't listen to them, but these guys are selling millions of dollars of records, so obviously they're successful.
yes,
It might not be my cup of tea, but you know what? I can't knock them because they're
yeah.
making millions of dollars. The same thing with wrestling. Uh, Although me myself personally, my top three favorite wrestlers of all time in order is Arn Anderson, Ray Stevens, Coco Beware. Um,
Hold on, let me think.
while
Okay, I got the first two, but Coco.
I like Coco and Memphis. I like Memphis Coco.
Okay, so I never got to see Memphis Coco. That's the
So
thing
did you
I
ever?
missed out
So I'm a huge fan of. I never, growing up, I watched WWE Coco Beware,
on.
and I still like. I thought he was a great entertainer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But
Definitely.
as I got older and got to business, I started researching Coco Beware and him in Memphis, and like Memphis Coco Beware was amazing. Coco Beware down in Louisiana, amazing. So I'm a huge fan. He's like my number three favorite wrestler of all time, and I don't care what anybody says. But even though those may be my favorite wrestlers of all time, I can still appreciate um, the high flying. I can still appreciate the Ricky the Dragon Steamboats. I can still
Hmm.
appreciate the Macho Mans, the Hogans, the Earthquakes, and the Mounties. They might not be my cup of tea.
Yeah.
The guys who do all these flips, Leo Rush, that we just saw a couple months ago, a huge fiasco with Leo Rush. While I may not be a huge fan of that spot, I can appreciate his body of work. I can appreciate the fact that Leo Rush is a very accomplished and very good professional wrestler. I
Hmm.
can appreciate that. I'm never going to say, "Oh, well, he's killing the business." No, he's not, because I'm pretty sure when Scorsese first came into the directing scene or whatever, that Alfred Hitchcock looked at him and was like, "You're killing film." When Steven Spielberg first made the first Star Trek, the first Star Wars, I'm pretty sure somebody looked at Steven Spielberg and was like, "This guy's going to ruin movies for all of us."
Yeah.
You know, um, I'm not a Star Wars fan whatsoever. Can I say that they're horrible movies? No, they make billions of dollars.
They're just not
While it
your
may
movie.
not be my, it's just not my movie for me. If you ask me to spend my hard-earned money to go to the movies, I'm not going to go see a Star Wars movie. Sorry,
Hmm. Yeah.
but I'm not going to completely shit all over it just because I don't like it. And I think that that's the same thing with professional wrestling.
Hmm. My thing is death matches. I don't get death matches. They hold no appeal to me, but I know some people like them. I don't shit on them. It's for what some people enjoy. Let them enjoy it. It's just not going to be what I'm going to watch. And
As
didn't you
somebody,
recently do a death match?
I was just about to say, as somebody who just had their first death match,
Yes.
um, I can kind of see the appeal in guys who do it. Like you said, I'm not a huge death match wrestling fan. Um, I do have certain guys that I enjoy watching. If there's going to be a death match, or if I have to watch death match wrestling, there's certain guys that I will watch, whether they're doing regular matches or death matches.
Hmm.
Masada, Pondo, Necro Butcher when he was still wrestling. I watched Brad Cash from Tennessee just to see somebody kill him because I hate Brad Cash. The hell with him. T.J. Phillips from West Virginia, who just had an amazing match this past weekend with Brad Cash in Routhside, Princeton, West Virginia. There are guys who do death matches. Matt Tremont, Onita, these guys,
Yeah.
they do death matches, but they tell a story. and it's the escalate, and it's not so much, we're just going to beat each other with, weed whackers and panes of glass and light tubes. It's a steady progression of violence. They don't just, it's not just like, the bell rings, here comes a light tube. It's, we're going to wrestle, and at first we're wrestling, and then the wrestling becomes more physical, and we become more physically violent with each other, and then, okay, well, I can't pin you, and I'm beating the piss out of you with my body. Well, that doesn't work. Okay, now I'm grabbing a chair. Oh, the chair doesn't work. Okay, well, now I have this, I have a table. The table doesn't work. Well, I'm going to wrap the table in barbed wire. That doesn't work. Well, here's some light tubes. Oh, well, I can't beat you like, well, here's a staple gun or a Kindle. I love the steady progression of violence that death matches bring. Can I watch them 24/7? Hell no.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's one of those things where if it's a good one and you can see the guys and they're building something, not everybody is Cactus Jack and Vader. Not everybody can put on that match like that. There are people that just go out there and make asses out of themselves. Like my son has tried to get me to watch some of those Dean Ambrose matches where people take a sawzall to his head, and it's like, I got no use for this. I can't understand that. I can't enjoy it. It's just gratuitous violence, just for the sake of violence. There's no story. I can't get it. But everybody's got their own thing. Women's wrestling is something I enjoy immensely because they have gotten to the point where their passion is so intense that the women's WE product to me is much superior than your average male match because they actually show their feelings.
It's not just the ladies of WWE. I'm more impressed by the ladies on the independent circuit.
There are some awesome ones.
And that's a good thing about being able to travel in the indies because you see the change in women's wrestling. In my personal opinion, this is not shitting on anybody else. When I first got into wrestling, there was Casey Carlisle, this female named Persephone, and like 3 or 4 other ones who were really, really good. And now you see, female wrestlers female wrestling in itself has exploded, and the number of companies have exploded to where it's more than just, Mercedes Martinez and Cheerleader Melissa and Casey Carlisle, and you have these Priscilla Kellys and Kiera Hogans and Isla Dawn and Camilla Kane, who is slowly becoming her, and Isla Dawn is slowly becoming 2 of my favorite female wrestlers.
I did an interview with Camilla Kane, and not only is she a phenomenal talent who has every tool you could possibly need to be on the WWE, she's a really nice person and down to earth and enjoys helping people. And
she's from North Carolina.
Yes, she is from North Carolina.
She's like, her hometown is like 2 hours away from my hometown.
Yeah. It's weird, and this is the oddest experience is you're talking to someone who is ungodly gorgeous, who is a brutal ass whipper, but she comes off as one of the nicest people you'll ever talk to. It was weird.
Not only that, but she's also a professional football player at the same time. But what I love, like with women's wrestling nowadays, and this is just my humble opinion, these female wrestlers are kicking ass and taking names. And me myself personally, depending on who the female is, like at the Roar show, the last Roar show, that we were both at, there is no way, and there's no amount of money that you could have given me to where you could have asked me to follow that Isla Dawn Evilise match. There's no amount of money that would have made me follow that match. I'd be like, no, that's the main event. I'm done. I'm not following these ladies. Hey, cut the lights off, send everybody home. That's it.
It was brutal. It was ass whipping intensity. And that is the thing about AWE and Roar that I like so much is you're right on top of the ring. So you feel that. It's palatable. It's something you can taste and smell, the just intensity, and they do such a great job. I love it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love the product.
Like and like I said, AWE is some people call it a niche. company and stuff. I think that AWE is pushing the boundaries, like you said. One of the biggest things for AWE is that the fact that I feel like the majority of the fans like is because if you want, even though they have chairs set up and you can sit down if you want to, there's that freedom that you can stand right there at the edge of the ring. With the exception, I think, of Beyond Wrestling, there's no other wrestling company in the South that says, hey, look, our shit is legit. Our wrestlers are wrestlers, and this is the real. And like, we hit each other, and you can feel it, and you can feel the sweat fly. And we dare you to stand ringside and tell us that this shit's fake. Mm-hmm. Even though you know that the outcome is predetermined and stuff, it's like, we will make you forget that this outcome is predetermined. We will make you, like, for a brief second, you're going to stop and you're going to question if this shit's real or not.
Yeah. Well, it's that suspension of disbelief that you get when you're so up into it like that, where you're so into it, you don't care if it's predetermined, or you don't care if this is like a legitimate sporting contest. You're just into it and enjoying it. And that's something I don't know that you can really get at a lot of promotions. It's a unique experience.
I would tell you what, man, working me, myself, my personal feeling, working in Georgia, I told a lot of people, being from North Carolina, coming to Georgia made me a better wrestler overall. Wrestling in Tennessee made me a better character, a better gimmick, but wrestling in Georgia made me a better worker. And then coming to AWE made me really tighten my workup, because you have zero room for error. The margin for error is very, very, very small, very slim. And like you said, it makes you work harder because you really have to make the fans suspend their belief. You have to make them really believe with every part of your body that what you see in the ring is real. Mm-hmm. And you find yourself kind of forgetting that this is wrestling. And it's like, and for the 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, whatever that you're in the ring, you really are that person. Yes. What you see in the ring, that's exactly what you are. I was talking to a really good friend of mine, and I'm name drop. I know I'm doing a lot of name drops this podcast.
Oh, that's always fun. Yeah, it's always fun.
I apologize for being a habitual name dropper, but as much as I don't like most of these people, I got to put my friends on to. I got to give them some recognition. Dan Richards, the progressive liberal Dan Richards, who's a really good friend of mine from Virginia. This guy's all over the place, as we both know.
He's all over the internet. I cannot wait to get this guy.
He's all over the place, and a really, really good friend of mine. Just made his debut at AWE, and I felt so bad because I forgot to mention to him about the crowd, about the area, and about the fact that the fans are right there on the ring. And he's very used to wrestling in Virginia and Kentucky and West Virginia and Tennessee, with the quote unquote Southern wrestling. Yeah. And he comes to AWE, and now, like, after the show, I was like, "So, Dan, what do you think?" And he's like, "Well, damn it, man! It's an experience." And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Nobody told me that the fans are like right there standing ringside, like they're like pounding the mat while you're wrestling." It's like, it was really, really weird. It's like I've never been in that type of situation. Like, and they were just like rabid and with their chants and everything, and like, you really have to interact with them. And I was like, yeah, it's like, oh man, I feel so bad. Like, I should have kind of warned you about the AWE fans. Like, I kind of should have warned you about the atmosphere and everything. Like,
that is the weirdest thing about AWE is there's not a lot of competition for the front row seats. The hardcore fans want to get right there and be at ringside. So I can stroll in, get my front row seat, because I like to sit down and drink my beer and relax and enjoy the product. But when you slam somebody into a turnbuckle and I am 4 feet from the turnbuckle, I get scared as shit. Really?
You know, I was going to tell you that you're sitting in a front row seat that like one of the AWE fans probably paid for. Is just I'm paying for front row tickets just so I can get to the show early and get me a spot close to the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why I mean, why they have seats, except for people like me that like to sit down and enjoy it.
Because they're still wrestling fans, you know, and once again, like we were talking before, if you're as a wrestling fan, you know, can you imagine, you know, and of course you can, but as a wrestling fan, your first time coming to an AWE show, and you're thinking it's your typical wrestling show where everybody's sitting down, they put all the chairs around the ring, and people are sitting down, and then you walk into the venue at AWE, and there's only chairs on two sides, and you're like, so what's going on the other four sides? And then the show starts, and there's just this mass of people who just like surround the ring on two sides. Like two whole sides of the ring is just surrounded, just covered in fans, and they're like yelling back and forth, you know, insulting each other back and forth, interacting with each other, and then interacting with the wrestlers. And you're just sitting there, like you said, in your front row drinking a beer, and you're like, what is this? Like, this is like a circus.
My first experience with AWE was at the Southern Fried Game Room Expo, and me and my daughter were there, and we'd walked around. We got there early. We played pinball and Pac-Man and every other video game from my childhood for like 4 hours, and then we go to the wrestling show, which is part of the deal. You know, you pay your ticket, you get the wrestling show too, and we get our seats. We got there early. We had a front row seat. And then people were in the floor. The wrestlers were right on top of us. And it's like, she does not like wrestling at all. But when she sees those wrestlers come flying out into the crowd, she pays attention and likes it. It's a really, really, really visceral experience.
I've seen videos of the AWE fans at Southern Fried, and it was really no different. Like, as soon as the AWE wrestlers came out, they're like, all right, we're on the ring.
Yeah.
Like, this is our match. These are our guys. Like, they know that we're going to stand ringside. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, I was there when AWE did the show with Evolve, and the owner of Southern Fried was there, and he's sitting front row, and the wrestlers came out right by him. And after the show, I'm like, hey, Charles, you going to get rid of those barricades at your shows? And he's like, no. Because they came down on top of him. It was amazing.
I'm about to say, that was the match. I think that probably was me and Anthony Henry, probably. I don't know, because I know that.
Keith Lee fell on me. Keith Lee was trying to get up at ringside and then used me to get his balance. And I'm like, the fuck? This dude's a giant.
Yeah.
it was awesome.
But, you know, and you know that because you've been in AWE and stuff, one of the things that, and I find that we're talking about them a whole lot, so I'm going to make sure that Josh Wheeler hears this interview.
Yeah.
Side note, like note to self, make sure Josh hears this interview.
Yes. He'll have to be tagged heavily in these posts.
AWE, you know, I feel like it's gotten a bad reputation. It's got a bad rep, unlike a lot of the other companies that I've wrestled for in West Virginia and North Carolina stuff, because the language may be a little more adultish, but it's no different than people who let their kids watch Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
You know, or Game of Thrones or something like that, which if you're letting your kids watch Game of Thrones, you have a serious issue, but that's neither here nor there. But it's no different than, you know, a lot of stuff that they see on TV, but it's just that because wrestling is supposed to be, because WWE is family friendly, then all of wrestling is supposed to be family friendly, and AWE is not necessarily family friendly, but I like to call it family receptive. Because we have a lot of fans who are children. One of my biggest fans at AWE is this gentleman named Chris Holland and his two daughters and stuff. And they're, you know, preteens or whatever, and they come to the shows, and they refuse to go to any other wrestling shows but AWE. I feel that AWE is if you like, in my opinion, if you like wrestling in the 70s and 80s and 90s, you will enjoy AWE.
Yes.
I feel that AWE is a throwback to what a lot of people call the golden age of wrestling. You have characters such as, Sugar Dunkerton and the Carnies. You have great technical wrestlers, Martin Stone and Jimmy Raven, Chip Day and Joe Black. And you have the big, big behemoths, the big guys who just like to go out there and fight, which is myself and O'Shea and Solid Cross and KOD. That guy was just amazing. Jesus. You tag team wrestling, women's wrestling. You have a great mix of things.
It's a very variety rich show. You don't go and see every match look like every other match like you do at some of these indie shows you go to, where every match is the same match. Two guys, a single guy, two single every match after another. And
one of the things I love about AWE is that the Battle Royal means something.
Yes.
That most of these indie companies, they just put together a battle royal because they got a bunch of extra guys who showed up. It's like we don't have a match. Let's just do a battle royal, and it doesn't really mean anything. It may be for a title shot, quote unquote, later on down the line. But at AWE, the battle royal is a match unto itself. And you'll be a lot of talent comes to AWE just to be a part of that battle royal because that's a great way to get noticed by the fan.
AWE uses a battle royal not as filler, but as a legitimate match, and most promotions use it as filler.
Exactly. I mean, what other company will have QT Marshall, who's the trainer at the Power Factory, bring him in and put him in a battle royal?
Yeah.
Any other indie card in America, he'd be, if not the main event, he'd be close to the top of the main event. And that's not saying that, QT Marshall isn't worthy of having a match at AWE. That's just saying that, hey, at AWE, like you said, the Battle Royal is just not filler. Like, it's a legitimate match. It means something at AWE. There are no filler matches.
No.
The Battle Royal is just as important as the main event. It's just as important as the title matches.
And honestly, right now, like we were saying about this being a great time for wrestlers and wrestling fans, I am at a point where I live out in Gwinnett County where on your given weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there'll be at least 2 shows running every night on a weekend. And I can pick for what I want to go to see. Just like I was at a buffet at Morrison's or Piccadilly. Like, I'll go see AWE this Sunday, but Saturday I'm going to go see Southern Friday, which is a different time. Friday I might go and see NCW.
And Thursday you can go see WWA4.
Yes. That's the one I'm dying to get down to. I've got to get down to that promotion for their Thursday shows because I just now met a bunch of people at that school and did some interviews. I've talked to Ashton Starr. I've talked to Dementia DeRose and working my way, trying to get in closer to people at that school. And they've all been super nice and super receptive.
Can I say that Ashton Starr is an amazing wrestler?
Yes. This weekend was the first time I saw him wrestle men. I've always seen him wrestle women. And when he wrestles men, where he's got a stronger power base where he's working with, like somebody who can take the harder shots, he is a damn legitimate competitor.
Exactly. He's another person at AWE that myself, I would personally say that the Raw division at AWE wouldn't be as good as it is without Ashton Starr. And this is the statement I'm about to make is no knock on the two ladies at all, but I feel like Kiera, I've talked about them and brought their names up several times. Kiera Hogan and Priscilla Kelly. I don't feel like they would be where they would eventually be where they're at eventually, no matter what. But I feel like working with someone like Ashton Starr really did so much for them as far as their work style, as far as their confidence. They were having some of the best when they were working with Ashton Starr, and they were both still very green, very, very green. They were like a year in, which in wrestling terms isn't really jack shit. We both know that. They were having some of the best matches on the card with less than a year in the business because of him, and that's just a testament to how great of a talent he is. And I really hope that after this podcast, after the next Roar show and stuff, that a lot more people see how great this guy really is.
Well, the one thing about him that he's got that most people miss out on is he has a gimmick that he works effectively based on where he's at. He's always true to his gimmick, but that gimmick can be used in Atlanta and that gimmick can be used in Cornelia, and it works perfectly wherever he's at. And he can tailor his gimmick to work, and he lives his gimmick. And it's
I've seen him do that gimmick in North Carolina, and it's just as over in North Carolina as it is in Georgia.
Yes, he can get over wherever he's at. It's very genuine, and like I said, I had one of the best interviews I've ever had with him from the back of a WWA4 training room. He took off during training and talked to me, and the guy knows his business and he's skilled. He's going to go somewhere in this. I really think he's got such a unique thing he's working that he's going to go places. Yes.
Once again, I feel that we're talking about everybody else but me. When this interview comes out, I'm just gonna start I'm just gonna tag everybody. Like, look,
you're coming off a lot like a fan.
Because because I'm not only am I a professional wrestler, but I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling. Yeah. I've never forgotten that 20 years ago I was getting suspended from high school or getting detention for giving a teacher a crotch chop and telling her to suck it, or that that me and all of my friends almost got expelled from school for giving each other the too sweet. And we were wearing the black and red NWO shirts like every other day. And the principal and other teachers thought we were a gang because we were like the red and black NWO, and then there was the black and white NWO, and we just didn't talk to them. And we would talk, and we would talk shit to each other in the hallway, and we passed each other in the hallway, and teachers, and for some reason the teachers and the principals and the administration thought that we were a gang. So I've never forgot what it's like to be a fan, and I think that if you're going to be a professional wrestler, I think there are certain keys and certain things that if you're going to be successful in this business, and once again, success is subjective, but in order to be a successful wrestler, there are certain things that you need to have, and you need to have a love for this business, and not just, oh, I love wrestling, I love being a wrestler. Like, you have to enjoy being a fan. You have to be able to step back from being a wrestler sometimes and just watch a match and just enjoy the art that these 2 or 3 or however many people have put together. You have to be able to just step back and not be critical of the match, and not, oh, well, that was they blew that spot, or that spot wasn't.
Or you just pick it to pieces.
Yeah, you just pick. Like, you have to be able to just step back and look at the entire thing as a whole. And like, oh man, I really enjoyed that. Or, hey, I really enjoy watching this person work. Why? Because I'm a wrestler and I know what it takes to be successful. I know the type of dedication you have to have in order to perfect your craft constantly. So I can appreciate guys like an Ashton Starr, like an Adrian Armour, like a Priscilla or a Kiera or a Joe Black, et cetera. I can watch their matches and enjoy myself as a fan because I know how hard it is and how much work you have to put in to entertain these fans. We have a very small window to get ourselves across with the fans, to get ourselves over with these fans, and you have to take every opportunity available to you to get over, from your entrance to your exit to all of your ring work to when you're just standing in the middle of the ring. Everything, those are all opportunities to get yourself over, and I'm able to take these moments and look at them and be like, man, I really enjoyed that. And then sometimes I see certain guys like the Gymnasty Boys. I'm like, man, I really wish I could. There are times where I really wish I had the freedom to do what White Mike and Timmy Lou Retton does, like or a Sugar Dunkerton, or an Ashton Starr, or an Effie, and just say, man, I really wish I could just do that stuff. I wish I could get away with being able to do that stuff, but for the size that I am, it's not believable.
Yeah.
If I was doing, I couldn't at 310 pounds. I couldn't do what White Mike is doing. I couldn't do the whipped cream spot. It would come off as uncomfortable and hokey and not believable. Because of my look, because of my build, because of the way I carry myself, it would just come off as hokey, and it wouldn't have the same impact as a White Mike or a Timmy Lou or an F.
Well, Mike's in that unique position where he can pull off greasy better than anyone I've ever seen.
Exactly.
You
I wish I could be like Sugar D. I think he's one of the most creative people ever. One of my favorite things that he's ever done was when he did a tribute to Shinsuke Nakamura at PWX in North Carolina, and he came out and they introduced him as Shinsuke Chakamura, and he did the entire and no lie, he did the entire Nakamura entrance, and it was so beautiful. And I'm sitting there with a bunch of other wrestlers, and we're just on our feet, just like, oh my God, this is so great. Oh, yeah. So I mean, if I come off as a fan, it's because I am a fan. I've always had a love of wrestling.
Yeah.
My childhood revolved around two things when I was growing up. Well, three things actually. My entire childhood, from as long as I can remember till the time I joined the army, revolved around boxing, professional wrestling, and bodybuilding, and those were the only things I really gave a shit about when I was younger. Was wrestling, and in my house, I grew up in a very wrestling and boxing oriented house, so we used to schedule like meals and holidays and stuff around wrestling. When I was, you remember when Survivor Series actually took place on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would come on at, that's when you had the old brown cable box, and you had to call your cable provider and stuff and like, hey, give us this pay-per-view. We would eat Thanksgiving early at my aunt's house, just so either A, we could order the pay-per-view, we could order Survivor Series at her house, or we could drive back across town and go home and make it home to watch Survivor Series at home. My parents used to throw huge parties whenever there was a boxing pay-per-view going on, especially if it was a Tyson fight. If it was Tyson or Evander Holyfield.
I was in high school when Tyson was at his peak, and where he was just mowing people down. And we didn't get, where I lived in Alabama, we did not get cable television until, not because we didn't get it. It was not available until 93.
That's because it's Alabama.
We were far out in the hood, but it was just getting to see the boxing and whatever thing we could catch on TV. There were Sundays where I would watch the old replays of the Thrilla in Manila, the Rope-a-Dope on ABC Sports.
Exactly.
And it was new to me, and it was so powerful.
So I've never, with all of these things, and like I said, growing up, watching this stuff and being a fan of wrestling and boxing, I think that if you're a professional wrestler and you don't have that much love for professional wrestling, you won't be as successful as you could be, because the love for professional wrestling isn't pure. It's just like artists. Salvador Dali was a huge Picasso fan, and Salvador Dali is my favorite artist of all time. So I'm a huge fan of surrealism. Another thing you weren't expecting is that I love surrealism in Salvador Dali. But Salvador Dali was a huge fan of Picasso, especially his Blue Period. Yeah. And he would say in interviews that he wished that he could do something like that, but he can't. But he can sit back and he can look at a Picasso, and he would sit there and he would look at me, he would cry. Or he would look at, an Andy Warhol painting and just stare and look at it for hours. Or a Monet or a Magritte or whatever, or any of these other painters. He would just stand there and appreciate his his fellow painters' artwork because he was a fan of painting. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing, I don't understand why wrestlers are like, oh, quit being a mark, quit being a mark, quit being a mark. How many actors do you see when they're like, when Jack Nicholson comes in and you see actors falling all over themselves to talk to, Jack Nicholson or Al Pacino or De Niro, or any other famous actor, or actress, whatever. They fall over themselves to speak to them. Why? Because they're huge fans. They're fans of actors. They're fans of that actor, of their movies. These are the people that inspired them to get into acting. So if I'm a huge fan of Arn Anderson and I meet Arn Anderson, why would I not fall all over myself? This is the man who inspired me to be a wrestler. And then you're gonna tell me that I'm wrong for seeing him and almost passing out? Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I understand totally. And there's a lot of people that they use the term mark as an insult, or they want to be a smart. They want to be a smart mark. And I don't understand if those people enjoy the wrestling, because I still get excited when wrestling makes me pop or something gets me. I still mark out. And I still enjoy it like I did when I was 11 years old or 10 years old.
Exactly. I mean, me too. I don't understand. Like, I'm the same way as like people who, like, oh, don't be a mark, or that person's a smart. And it's like, well, aren't we all marks? Like, obviously, we're the biggest ones because we actually do this for a living. And so we're bigger marks than they are because we know this stuff is fake and we still do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that, and like I said, being around a lot of these younger wrestlers, and a lot of guys who are more creative, rekindled my love for professional wrestling. Because the business of professional wrestling will make you hate wrestling. Having to deal with the everything away from the ring, the talking to promoters and talking to bookers and dealing with backstage politics will make you hate professional wrestling. And being around these younger guys who are way more creative and they're just having fun, it got to a point I'll say right before I started working for AWE, I was about to sell all of my gear. I told my wife, I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm so tired of the politics and the bullshit, and I just want to find like an agent who will do all the talking for me, and all I have to do is just show up and wrestle and get my money and leave. And if I can't find that, if I can't find that before December, I'm done. Like, I'm just finished with wrestling. Period. And I met Josh Willer. I've always known who Josh Willer was when he ran Rampage in Georgia, and then when he had his own podcast with Murder One, I used to listen to that. And then when I heard that he was starting his own wrestling company, I was like, oh man, I really want to get on to AWE. And I messaged AWE like several times their first year they were running and never got a response back. And I just happened to meet him backstage at a PWX in North Carolina. And I went and shook my hand. I was like, hey, I'm Will Huckaby. And he was like, yeah, I'm Josh Willer. I was like, yeah, I know exactly who you are. Like, that's why I made sure I came over here and talked to you. And I sat and I talked to him. And if it wasn't for Josh Willer, like bringing me and Joe Black into AWE, I probably wouldn't be wrestling right now.
Wow.
Because AWE and the guys that work for AWE and a couple of other younger talent who live in like West Virginia and Tennessee and North Carolina and other different states and stuff, being around these younger guys who are less than 5 years in, kind of made me enjoy being a wrestler again. They rekindled my love for wrestling.
That makes sense. And a fresh inspiration and dealing with people who are still having fun has got to be. It's got to be something that inspires you.
Well, it just made me, like I said, the politics of professional wrestling will just make you hate wrestling. And when that's all you see, and we both know just from life, is like it's hard to see the sunshine. It's hard to notice the sunshine when you've had so many cloudy days in a row. It's like you just kind of just.
Oh yeah, you don't understand the situation you're in because you're too far in it.
Exactly. And that's where I got into. And then, like I said, like coming to AWE, and it was just totally different. I think at the time they were running in downtown Atlanta in the Quad, right by Georgia Tech, and that crowd was. I remember the first time I went to an AWE show, I was tired. Me and Joe Black had actually wrestled the night before in Boston. And
Wow, that's a hell of a
yes,
commute.
we had wrestled in Boston, Massachusetts that Saturday. The guys that we were supposed to wrestle that night never showed up, so we ended up wrestling each other, which happens on indie shows. That was no big deal. But then it was a 16-and-a-half-hour drive from Boston to Atlanta, and we drove all the way through the night. Got
Wow.
to the venue. Actually, I think we got to the venue right there at call time. And then we, met everybody, went over our match, did our match, bam, and it's been, off and running ever since then. But if it wasn't for AWE and a couple of very select younger guys and stuff who I had the pleasure. Well, I'll say AWE, Firestar Pro Wrestling, LeBron Cozone, who runs Firestar Pro Wrestling up in North Carolina and stuff, in Greensboro, North Carolina. Josh Gary, who used to be the head trainer at USIWF, and now he's like, he's all over the place, and he helps train. He does guest training at the Monster Factory and for AML and all these other places and stuff. A lot of his students and the students of LeBron Cozone and Firestar Pro Wrestling, and then like I said, the AWE, they just being around those three companies really rekindled my love of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To get to see someone and deal with people who are enjoying it again, I think that would apply to anybody in any business or any kind of art form. To get to have someone to show you why you got into this, and
yes.
You take that to granted if you're not. If you're in it every day and you're not looking outside, looking out the window, you're just driving along and doing the stuff. I like that. I like that. I like the inspiration. I enjoy this kind of thing when I talk to wrestlers. I enjoy them explaining to me where their motivation comes from, because it's like you were talking about Dolly and Picasso. To me, I see this as an art form, because these guys get out there and they give us a performance and they put their body on the line to give us something we enjoy. And it's an art form. Ric Flair is someone who just embodies this kind of thing to me. And I like feeling that kind of passion and knowing somebody enjoys what they're doing when they're out there, because it makes it better for being a fan.
Yeah, I've been able to take my rekindled love of professional wrestling and travel to other places. And I've noticed now, which is something that we in the wrestlers call him Uncle Bob, but you probably know him better as Brutal Bob Evans from ROH.
Yes.
Uncle Bob was always telling people to serve. Before you can start making money, you have to learn how to serve before people do stuff for you. And because of Brutal Bob's teachings and being at AWE and being around the young guys at Firestar and USIWF and Josh Gary and stuff, I've realized now when I can take this positive attitude, my love of professional wrestling, and when I go to places like WVCW in West Virginia, and Mega Championship Wrestling in West Virginia, and all these other companies that I'm very fortunate to wrestle for, I'm so much more relaxed in the locker room, and I'm like, hey guys, let's crack jokes and let's have fun, and don't worry about the pressure, and hey, we sit there and it's not tense, because everybody's trying to, you start creating a team atmosphere in the locker room, where you're like, look, everybody wants to have a great match and everybody wants to be the top guy, but you know what? We're a team, and I'm going to help you be, even though I might be at the top of the card now, you know what? I'm going to help you take my spot. You know what I'm saying? Because I might not always be here. Something may happen when I go do this other show and I break my neck and I can't wrestle. But I'm going to help you get prepped to take my spot if something happens. And when guys aren't worried about, well, this is my spot and I'm worried about my spot, don't want nobody to take my spot. The company as a whole does so much better. The company as a whole is a pleasure to work with, and people want to come there and work. And you start realizing when you have a great locker room, like for instance, West Virginia Championship Wrestling, WVCW, in Princeton, West Virginia. I've been wrestling there for a little over a year now, about a year and a half. And when I first got there, the atmosphere and the morale in the locker room wasn't that great. They were having these long, tedious shows with like 10 to 12 matches. Guys were worn out. Shows were lasting like 4 or 5 hours. The fans were coming. Yeah, the fans were coming, and they'd be wore out before intermission, whatever the case may be. And then with just and I'm not gonna say I'm definitely not gonna take all the credit whatsoever. But it was definitely a team effort that people's attitudes in the locker room start changing. When the attitudes in the locker room start changing, then we started getting, and the boys in the back got away from that whole this is my spot, and started getting into that team atmosphere. The front office and the promoters and the guys that make make the decisions, they picked up on the team mentality of all the boys in the locker room, and then they subscribed to it. Like, hey, you know what? We are a team, and they started asking for input from the guys. Like, what can we do to make this show better? What do you love about working here? What can we change to make this more enjoyable? And I will say that Eric Foster and Cody Green up there, and of course Bethany, which is Cody's daughter, who is the real promoter for WVCW. I'm just gonna not even lie. So, hey Bethany, shout out to my homegirl Bethany, Cody's daughter and stuff, who's the real leader for the show. But they've done a great job of turning the atmosphere around in the locker room. So now the boys and the ladies in the back and stuff, we're having a great time in the back before, while the show is going on, we're all cracking jokes and helping each other out and things like that. And then return, the fans pick up on our positive energy and they start enjoying the shows more. They start bringing people. And that's how it needs to be. In my opinion, that's what has to take place for a company to be successful. It starts in the locker room. Once the locker room and all the boys get away from that whole I have to protect my spot and I need to be the top guy here, and it's more about being a team and not worried about your spot, and it's more about, hey, as long as the show is great and we are all good, now the office, as we call it, the office will subscribe, because it'll start rubbing off on them, and now the fans will realize that we're enjoying ourselves and we're having fun, and they will start having fun. And the more the fans are having fun, the more they want to bring their friends along. Hey, look, we went to the show and it was a great time, and the wrestlers were cool. And after the show, they came out and laughed and joked with us. You should come check it out. And that's what in small things, just just a small positive thought, or just reacting in a positive way to a situation instead of a negative way will change the entire course of a wrestling promotion.
Yeah. I like coming home from a show and feeling such an energy that I can't wait to tell people about what I've seen or about the promotion or the wrestlers. And it's a thing you feel when I can guarantee when you make a locker room that people want to come to, you get talent that comes in you get more and more people put over, and it snowballs. You get a better product in the end.
Exactly. Like I said, the companies that I work for now, the main companies that I work for now, that's the one consistent in all of those locker rooms. And if they're not all successful, they've all made a huge 180 as far as the way the companies run and the crowd is building this stuff. So like I said, Mega Championship Wrestling, WVCW, Firestar, AWE is like I've stolen so many ideas from AWE that is not even funny. And not like characters and storytelling, just how it's run, how it's promoted, how the locker room is ran. You know, like it's a party. Like as much as it's a party out there where you fans are at, it's a big. I'm telling you right now, there's a bigger party going on in the back.
Oh, I can
I'm not
see
even
when
gonna
y'all
lie
come
to
out
you.
on that, when y'all come out at Marietta up on that upper deck and it's like looking, it's like, damn, those guys look, they're having a blast.
Exactly. You know, like as much as the fans are having a party at AWE, best believe there's a huge party going on backstage. Like, and we're having a good time because we're enjoying ourselves, and that transfer and that's shown when we come out to the ring and in our matches and in our performance and stuff.
Yeah. Well, you put over Bob Evans, and I will tell you, as someone who is not a wrestler, I follow Bob Evans, and I pretty much read and listen to everything he says because his points and his wisdom it almost transcends wrestling into about almost how you do everything in your life. That guy's a genius.
I will. You know what? I'm gonna say. It seems that way. Like, and he'll tell if you ever get a chance to ever like go to a seminar, talk to him one-on-one, he'll tell you that he wasn't always this way, and he was just like most of us. Was jaded when it came to wrestling business, and was ready to quit, and felt like he didn't get what was owed to him, and that he deserved more. And it wasn't until he changed his way of thinking that things started happening for him. And like I said earlier, it's the wrestling business. Everybody always says, "Oh, wrestling owes me nothing. Wrestling owes me nothing." But most guys act like wrestling owes them something. But it's not until you learn how to serve, and you have to check your ego at the door and just be like, you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I'm not Ric Flair. I'm not John Cena. I'm just an indie guy. I'm no better than the guy who does ring crew. I need to know how to serve before somebody's going to do something for me. Before I can lead, I have to learn how to follow. So, and that's a big thing. And that and thinking creatively and thinking outside the box is a huge, huge thing with Bob Evans. I will say, feather in my own hat, for anybody who's ever listened or read Brutal Bob's theory on how to become a millionaire in 10 years as an independent wrestler. Did you ever read that post?
No. Is it like some of the guys say where you start with $2 million?
No. But he has this post, and if you ever get a chance to talk about it, he'll tell you like how you can become a millionaire in 10 years as an independent wrestler. And that was like that whole thing was based off of a question I asked. But it's all just common sense, and it's most guys are trying to make money as far as their booking fee, and it's like there's so many different ways. Just like there are different jobs in wrestling, and not everybody can be a wrestler. Somebody has to take tickets, somebody has to do lights, and somebody has to do sound, and somebody has to be a referee, and somebody just has to hang up flyers, and somebody has to be the usher. The same way you have all those different jobs and ways to make so many different jobs involved in putting together a successful wrestling show, there's just as many ways to make money as a wrestler in the wrestling business. And most guys just want to have a ginormous, huge wrestling fee. But you can make money from your gimmicks and from cutting costs on the road and not going out to eat all the time and packing your lunch. And instead of drinking sodas, buying a case of water, a 24-pack of water for $3, and then buying, that little flavored water droplets and stuff. There are so many different ways to make money as far as wrestling, which transcends once again to being successful and paying your bills in wrestling. You see how this all just kind of ties in?
Yeah. Yeah, it's top to bottom.
Yeah.
That if you work the whole thing top to bottom, if you do everything from saving cost on the road to working your gimmicks and getting out there, and you can become more and more successful. And I've seen guys, I've gone to shows where guys would show up, and I've seen them at other shows selling gimmicks. But I know they walked into this show and didn't even bother to set up a table or come outside the locker room. So I'm like, they must have got a big fee for this if they can go in and not sell a single thing and walk out at the end of the show. Was that best for them? I don't know. Maybe they could have made more money, but I don't book them, so I don't quite know how all that works. Uh,
Let's see. That in my opinion. Like if I'm a heel, I don't usually set up a merch
yeah,
table. And that's just the old school wrestling fan in me. That if I'm a heel,
that's perfectly sensible.
I'm not going to set up a gimmick table. If I'm a babyface, then I'm selling everything under the sun. And I got some ideas and stuff, some things that's in the works right now as far as merch goes. That's going to like, hopefully, it's going to be totally different to where everybody's going to love it and it's going to blow people's minds.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
But
I like finding unique items on the merch table, whether it be a sticker or a pin or something.
Exactly. The carnies are becoming masters of merch.
Yeah.
And making money from their merch table. And I love seeing guys like that. Love seeing guys like that. Once again, putting them over. Jesus.
Yeah. My daughter, who does not like wrestling at all, was excited about getting a Carney shirt because she saw the merch as a non-wrestling fan and wanted it. She liked it that much.
That's awesome. I love hearing stuff like that.
Yeah. She liked that. I got her an Odinson shirt, which she really did not admit to liking at first, but then I catch her wearing it at places she wouldn't normally be wearing a wrestling shirt. So there's little things here and there. You know, it's if you got a likable product that people will buy and you can turn people on that don't typically like wrestling stuff, that's a great thing to have, man. That's a unique appeal.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. And my girlfriend has told me to not bring any more T-shirts in for a while because I got too caught up buying merchandise.
Look, you have to tell her. You have to tell your girlfriend like there's this guy named Will Huckaby. He has like an old English beer inspired T-shirt, and then he has a Cartoon Network inspired T-shirt.
Oh, those sound nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see those. I will definitely have to see those. Where can you get your merch?
I kind of like your podcast, kind of like Top Rope Podcast. I am self-contained. I don't have a pro wrestling tee store. Like I prefer to handle my merch myself. So if people contact me through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, my phone number, which is probably on Facebook, but don't call me because that's creepy. Just send me a message. And say, hey, look, I really would like a T-shirt this size or whatever. I will mail one out to you. Yeah, don't call me.
Yeah, I was given a wrestler's phone number the other day, and that wanted me to contact him. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. You know, I typically message them on a messenger. I'm not used to calling wrestlers. It's a different experience.
I don't mind like speaking on the phone with people, but if it's a fan like and maybe it's my fault because I put my phone number on social media and stuff, which after this podcast I'm probably gonna remove it, but I probably won't either because I've had concussions and I'll forget as soon as I hang the phone up with you. But yeah, for me it's just easier to contact me on social media anyway. Just because I'm a social media whore. Like I'm always online. I'm always on Facebook. I'm always watching something. I'm emailing people on Facebook and Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. Like I'm always doing something. So
well, right now in the wrestling business, if you're not working social media appropriately and effectively, it hurts you. You need that extra marketing to be successful. And I've seen guys that can work it and do it very well, that it's done real well for them. You know, you've got a free way to promote yourself. You can run a free advertisement at all times. And people don't take advantage of it, and it hurts their product.
Oh, yeah. And once again, that's what I was saying, like, I didn't know about, social media and how to work the social media game until I started talking to a lot of these younger wrestlers. Like I said, a lot of younger guys and stuff with anywhere from 1 to 5 years in, you'd be surprised. A lot of these younger guys are making twice as much money, or they're going home with twice as much money as a lot of these vets, a lot of your favorite indie wrestlers. These guys go home with twice as much money because they know how to work social media. Because they're fans, they're so accessible on social media, and therefore, like wrestling fans are able to contact them to buy their merch, to get their T-shirts or their pictures or whatever else they got.
You make contact with them. You get to know them in a certain, or you feel like you know them. You want to go see these people on shows, and you know where to go see them because they're posting it.
Exactly.
It's an advertisement for where you're going to be. It's an advertisement of what you have to sell, and you don't have to pay for it. It's brilliant.
And the way that the world is set up now, you don't need a big machine like WWE behind you.
You don't have
all
to
you
have
need is exactly. You don't need, look at it once again. Look at the Young Bucks. They had they had Twitter, a YouTube page, and a camera. And between those three items, basically, they went from just making videos and stuff to, I guess, to kind of let their fans know what they were doing. They just parlayed that to a deal with Hot Topic.
Yeah.
Which, as far as I know, is the first time a non-signed wrestler to a big, huge American company actually got a clothing deal with
definitely
a major retailer like that. And not only that, but they're outselling WWE merchandise 2-1 and other New Japan merchandise in Hot Topic 2-1.
You are over in a certain segment of the culture if you're in Hot Topic like that. And it made wrestling cool to people who weren't wrestling fans or thought wrestling was something that dorks did or that weird people paid attention to. It got those, like my daughter, she considers herself edgy, and all her little friends are edgy, and they want to go to Hot Topic all the time. But then they start seeing wrestling merch in there, and it's like, it's a different market for it. Every mall has a Hot Topic. You go in there and get a wrestling shirt.
Exactly.
Anytime.
I'm surprised that Joey Ryan doesn't have a deal with Spencer's yet.
That would be brilliant. And there's another guy who has taken his online persona and made an incredibly successful wrestling business out of it.
Who is
marketing.
that?
Joey Ryan.
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. Matter of fact, you know what? When I get done with this, I'm going to talk to the Gymnasty boys. Like, you know what? Y'all need to go to Spencer's.
Yeah.
And I want my royalties for giving you the idea.
Those guys are crazy. Those are two that when I go to a show, I look around to see if they're going to show up, even as fans or just show up to wrestle, because you never know what the hell they're going to do.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There are times where I may not be booked for a wrestling show, and I'll just show up. Just because I'm a wrestling fan, and not only am I a wrestler or a wrestling fan, but I support wrestling, and these are my friends, and and unlike, and I know you see on social media, it's like, oh, you shouldn't pay for it. If you're a wrestler, you shouldn't be buying tickets. I will pay for a ticket to a wrestling show if I'm not booked there, because that guarantees that my friends who are wrestlers and who work for this company, they get another, my little $15, $20, $30, whatever it may be, guarantees them another place to work at. It helps them work. It helps them continually get work and get booked at this company.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if they're selling tickets, they're going to get booked more often.
Exactly.
And that's a solid thing. You're supporting your friends.
So to everybody listening,
yes.
To everybody, to all the wrestlers listening and stuff, quit being cheap and asking for free stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool every once in a while to go to a wrestling show and hang out with the boys in the back, but quit being cheap and buy a ticket. Even if you're still gonna go hang out with the boys in the back or whatever, $10 is not gonna kill you. Like, pay the $10, buy a ticket. Just donate the ticket to somebody else and say, hey, look, I just want to donate a ticket to the show. I'm gonna come and hang out. I'll just give you $10.
Or set the ring up.
Free. Yeah.
If you want to come in free, set the ring up.
Exactly. Set the ring up. Set up chairs, whatever the case may be. I will admit to at times, if I'm paying, like, my mentality is like, I just paid $30 for a ticket. I'm not setting this ring up. Like, I came here as a fan. I'm not setting up this ring, and I'm not tearing it down either.
Oh man, I that is a good point, and that's awesome. That's awesome.
I mean, if I get into the show for free, then yes, I will help set up.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I just paid. Like,
No,
I
if
just
you
paid
paid,
$30.
no, you're a fan if you
Like,
paid.
yeah, don't expect for me to set up. Like, if I do decide to help out, it's because I want to. But don't expect that I'm gonna help set up or tear down. Like, 'cause I just paid $30. I'm not doing it.
Oh man, I have had the best time talking to you tonight. It has been a blast.
Thank you. I
Tell
enjoyed
everybody.
myself.
Thank you, sir. Where are you going to be coming up? What shows you want to promote?
Let's see. This Saturday, because once again, if you follow me on social media, and I'll get to that later. This Saturday, I have a very short week this week. I'm taking the last couple of weeks off easy, because my youngest daughter is playing football, and so me
Wow.
being me being a stay-at-home dad and stuff, and being the father of two autistic sons and stuff. I've taken a lot of time off the last couple of weeks and stuff from wrestling, especially during the week, to kind of be there and take my daughter to football practices and watch her play football because it's super cool. But this Saturday, I will be in Princeton, West Virginia for WVCW, West Virginia Championship Wrestling. And I just put on my social media that it's myself and the Gymnasty Boys versus the Black Skull Army, which is CWF Mid-Atlantic, or former CWF Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champion Aaron Biggs, Baron Bullard, and Jay Smooth, which is the Black Skull Army, versus myself and the Gymnasty Boys, which I guess means for like one night I get to be an honorary Gymnasty Boy, which is pretty cool.
Yes. If they've got like a singlet or something, one of those singlets or robes or whatever White Mike wears out to the ring now.
I might. I think he sold that, which is kind of sad. But if he didn't sell it, I'm gonna wear the robe, or maybe the NWA shirt. That would be cool. Then next weekend I will be in Columbus, Georgia for Syndicate Pro Wrestling presents. I guess now it's the UWA with the whole NWA fiasco with them dumping the affiliate program. They have now formed the United Wrestling Alliance. So SPW, Syndicate Pro Wrestling, presents UWA Georgia. I will be there next Saturday. Next Sunday, I will be in Greensboro, North Carolina for Firestar Pro Wrestling presents Zone 1, which is kind of like their student show. But once again, I like doing the shows because I like working with young talent. So I'll be there next Sunday. Like I said, October 21st, be on the lookout. Me versus All Day O'Shea Edwards.
Yes.
We're having our epic meet down inside of a gym. I don't know where in Atlanta, Georgia, but we'll be somewhere clanging and banging weights to prove who's the strongest in AWE. And then October 22nd is, AWE returns back to the Marietta Event Center in Marietta, Georgia. Make sure you show up. It's always a great, great, great show. This show is actually the second annual Shorty Low Battle Invitational Battle Royal. Shorty Low being a very influential rapper in the Atlanta area hip hop scene, so they've named the Battle Royal after him, and they do it every year now. Every member of the AWE roster is invited to be in the Battle Royal. So I have no idea what the hell that means. I have no earthly idea.
No telling he'll turn up.
Whew. And then to round off the month of October, October 27th, I'll be in Marmet, West Virginia for Mega Championship Wrestling. I have this huge ladder match against the Mega Championship Wrestling and the AIWF America's Champion, Eric Darkstorm. We're having a ladder match for both titles. And then on the 28th, I will be in Ironton, Ohio for FTC Wrestling.
Wow. That's a lot of dates, and I have never had anyone that could roll their dates off as smoothly and quickly as you just did.
Well, there's like I said, usually I would have said, because like I said, my youngest daughter is playing football and stuff, so I've really taken it easy for the month of September, October, because she plays Pop Warner and it's like 8 weeks of football. So usually I would say Wednesday I would be in Blackwater, New Jersey for Dojo Wars, and Thursday Charleston, West Virginia for Renegade Pro Wrestling at the Dead Zone in Charleston, West Virginia. And then there's always a Friday show going on somewhere, like probably at the Landmark Arena down in Cornelia, Georgia.
Yeah.
But after October, so after the football season's over with, I will get back on being on the road 5 days a week. But to hear all of that, you can follow me on Facebook at William Huckaby, Instagram William Huckaby, Twitter WA Huckaby. You can listen to me every week on the Wrestling Nerdcast with my co-host, one half of the world's cutest tag team, Mika Villas. Follow my podcast on Facebook, Wrestling Nerdcast, on Twitter, WNerdPod. And just like I said, I have a YouTube page. I really haven't uploaded a bunch of stuff because I just bought like this crazy brand new laptop, and I'm still trying to figure out how the hell to use it. And I'm waiting for my oldest, and I'm admitting I'm waiting for my oldest daughter to come home and show me how to do this damn thing, how to like actually work my laptop, because there's so many different like things with it,
Well,
man.
those things, computers change so rapidly.
Exactly.
And we're always trying to learn new software and find new angles and different things to promote. And it is work. It is actual work to keep up with the stuff.
But follow me on all of those things. Make sure you pay attention Monday through Friday, especially on Instagram and stuff. I have my bus stop selfies with my kids. Like them and share them. There you go.
Awesome, man. Now, you got your promos in. You got the podcast. You got your dates. Are you going to be in the North Carolina area during the WrestleCade?
I'm still deciding whether or not I'm going to be at WrestleCade. I haven't decided yet. I definitely know I'm not going to be at Starrcade. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not going to Starrcade. I don't know if I'm going to be at WrestleCade or not. I think
we lucked
Thursday,
out.
I think that Thanksgiving I will be in Asheboro for CWS Asheboro. They have a yearly Thanksgiving show. This is the first year that I will probably be wrestling on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Now I guess I feel like a real wrestler. As far as WrestleCade goes, it's 50-50. I don't know if I'm going to go yet. If I do go, I will probably wrestle at least once in a battle royal. Then the rest of the time, I'll just be partying.
Yeah.
So
well, we're going there to network. We managed to get the time off, and we managed to get away from the family and permission to go. And if you are up there, man, stop by and say hello, and we'll have a beer.
Yeah, exactly. So if I do go, I might go for the podcast, for the Wrestling Nerdcast, and do some interviews and stuff, and do some footage. I just haven't decided yet. But if I do, I will let you know.
Yes, sir. I've had a blast tonight. I can't wait to work with you in the future, and I can't wait to see you wrestle live again. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Certainly do
Thank
appreciate
you. It's been a
this.
pleasure.
Okay, man. You have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
You like that? You want more like it? Why don't you go to www.tap.wrestlingpodcast.com. That's where you'll find our browser links for all of our personal Twitters, Facebooks, all that. You'll find the link to Amazon, where you can purchase stuff there. Through our link, we get a kickback. The Fight app, you can buy all your indie wrestling all the way up to Ring of Honor right there. They give us a kickback. Go to Blue Apron, buy some food. Guess what? Kickback there, too. There's a player down the center. Lets you listen to all the music. You can find the links to iTunes, Google Play, all those other places to listen to it, or just listen to it right there on your desktop. Subscribe. Big thing to do, guys. You got to subscribe. You get everything brand new. You like us on social media, Tap.Wrestling Podcast on Facebook. On Twitter, we're at Tap.Pod. And also, I'm at Myron the Mark TOP on Twitter. Now, we are slowly starting to tease episodes on our various social media pages prior to them being released. So listen out there, folks. Get some great episodes. Let us know. Give us some feedback. Tap.wrestlingpodcast@gmail.com. That's where you want to talk to us. www.tapoutwrestlingpodcast.com. The greatest website in wrestling.